one shot of Nagito Kamida, ex-reader. It is very angsty, and there is OOC, and there is going to be like gore, a lot of like bad shit, because well, you obviously have seen the title. It says Happy Pills, so you could obviously understand a bit of what it's about. So let's get on to the reading. Sweet bliss. That was the only thing on Nagito's mind. Here he was with his beloved, hand in hand. You two were watching the sunset together. As cliche as it sounded, it was the moment where they truly felt at peace. I truly feel must be lucky, he thought as he gazed down at you, his lover. Your head rested on his shoulder as you stared at the setting sunset with tired eyes. Nagito thought you looked quite angelic with the sun highlighting your HC hair. Nagito was convinced that his ultimate had gifted him with an angel, his angel. He'd been lying if he'd said that the killing game hadn't been a shock or didn't worry him. However, he had complete trust in his ultimate and believed that if he could keep control of how his luck would work, then he'd perfectly be fine. Then he'd met you. He truly believed that you were a sign of hope and purity, a sign from his lucky talent that everything would be alright. But Nagito's peace always turned out for the worst. He looked away from his precious angel. He felt guilty for feeling this way, but he couldn't help it. Something truly bad is going to happen. Is often where his mind went, even with his beloved. His mind couldn't help but wander to this thought. After all, for hope and luck to happen, there must be despair, right? They must coincide to keep balance between everything. At least that's what Nagito believed. Who could really blame him? Shit, I lost my... Sorry. With what Nagito has experienced before, it truly seemed that his beliefs and way of thinking were correct either way. To him, that what he believed was true. And with what he knew, he was truly in trouble. He was unbelievably happy with you. Too happy. He glanced down at you once again. How could he be this happy? Why is it that despite the horrible circumstances he and his classmates have found themselves in, he can feel peace whenever he is around you? Nagito didn't truly understand. He always tried to be hopeful in front of everybody else, but with you, he truly felt pure hope. He truly felt that he could accomplish anything as long as you were with him. He believed that he could survive this game with you. Then, when you would leave, he didn't know what to do with himself. He felt cold. He would still put on his hopeful facade for others, but he couldn't truly feel that way when he was with you. Why did he feel this way? The only way he could wrap his mind around this strange hope he feels with you was to believe in the ideal that he always had, and that meant bad things were going to happen. He felt Nagito's eyes on you. That was supposed to be simple. An innocent gaze that turned into a full stare. You were a bit uncomfortable with the situation, to say the least. What's the matter, Nagito? You looked into his eyes with a worried expression. Your voice snapped him out of his trance. He blinked a couple of times and shook his head lightly. He smiled. Everything is fine, love. I just can't believe that my ultimate luck would be so strong enough to bring us together. He looked at him for a few seconds and then smiled back. All right, then. Then you looked back towards the sunset. Even the most hopeful of us feel a bit of despair every now and then, right? You hoped that Nagito was truly alright. Nagito continued to stare at you. He wanted nothing bad to happen. He wanted to just be able to be happy with you. but he knew that it was just wishful thinking. Nagito knew something bad was going to happen. It had just been announced that there was a traitor amongst his class. Someone was observing them, spying on them, giving the Neo World program information about him and others. He looked over at you. You looked worried, just like the others. He felt awful. He knew that it was his fault. He had used too much luck and had not done anything unlucky to compensate for it. His happiness had been a downfall. His class and his angel had to suffer because of it. He felt horrible, and slowly he formed an idea. You know what he had to do? He had to do it for his class, his angel. Nagito had asked you to join him in his cottage after dinner. He seemed quite frantic. To say you were worried it would be an understatement. He had been acting a bit weird for a while. Always seemed a bit distant and upset whenever you two would be together for too long. It scared you sometimes. His demeanor could change so fast. You never let your feelings about the show, of course. You understood that trying to be hopeful all the time could be quite exhausting, especially when that's what everyone expects from you. You couldn't imagine the pressure Nagito could possibly be under with everybody giving him hopeful and happy persona, and honestly felt quite skeptical that he feels comfortable enough around you to let his persona fall away. However, although you felt quite special, you also ended up feeling extremely confused. Was Nagito showing his other friends something that wasn't actually good? You truly didn't know something whenever you felt his eyes on you for long periods of time. You started to feel insecure. Was he staring at you because he was examining you, contemplating over how attractive you were? Did he want to break up with you and stared at you, imagining scenarios in his head? You didn't know. Even now, when he asked you to go to his cottage, you didn't know why he wanted you to come over. The thought of him breaking up with you was one of the first things that crossed your mind. Was his frantic state. The thought of him revealing that someone else was trying to kill him also seemed to be a possibility to you. You truly wouldn't know until you got there, or rather until you knocked on the door. You were so lost in your thoughts that you had walked all the way to his cottage without realizing. You took a deep breath and slowly brought your fist up to the door. You were able to knock once before the door flew open. Nagito grabbed you by the wrist and dragged you through the doorway. Then slammed the door closed. Nagito dragged you all the way to his bed. He had both of you sit down. He, once again, looked quite frantic. Then he wrapped his arms around you and buried his head into your neck. You continued to sit there. You didn't know what was going on, and you didn't know what to do. Slowly, you wrapped your arms around him as well. Nagito, is everything all right? Everything is fine. He pulled back a bit. He could look at you, or at least it will be soon. His words frightened you. What did he mean by that? You didn't understand. Nagito, please. If there's something bothering you, then tell me. I can help you. Tell me what's... Then he pressed his lips to yours. His eyes were closed, and for a second you believed him that it was normal again. This is your Nagito. You let your eyes close and relaxed into the moment. You half expected Nagito to pull back and announce how funny his joke had been, how he'd gotten you so good. However, that was all wishful thinking. He pulled back, and once your eyes opened, you saw tears streaming down his face. You quickly brought your hands up to press his face. What's wrong? He smiled. I love you so much. Then he hugged you once more. YN, promise me something. Yes, of course, I'll do anything for you. He looked up once again, but this time it's not Minalkia, and I don't know how to pronounce that, had taken over expression. Promise me that no matter what happens, you'll continue to be happy, and that you won't let despair get to you. What? You didn't know how to respond. Nagito looked like he was on the brink of tears. Please, just promise me. Okay, I promise the despair won't get to me. Good. That's really good. He then had both of you lay down on his bed. He pulled the covers over both of you and went to sleep. You laid down there, still in his grasp. What just happened? You had no idea. You honestly didn't care at that point either. You just let yourself fall asleep and hoped everything would be alright. Nagito stared at your sleeping face. He thought you were so cute. Slowly, he felt the guilt in him build up once more. But he knew what he had to do. Now that you promised him, he could finally let his plan set in motion. It's time. Some people would say that Nagito was crazy. Even he himself questioned some of his actions. But as he poured the Monokuma poison into the anti-fire grenade bottle, he knew what he was doing was right. He knew that he could rely on his lucky talent to reveal who the traitor was. And although to some his plan seemed outrageous or unnecessary, he knew better. He knew it was probably the only way. At least that's what he believed. You hadn't seen Nagito for a while, or at least not just him by himself. You had seen him plenty of times around the others, but you two hadn't been spending as much time with one another as you used to. This starting to make you feel doubtful once again. Does he not like spending time with you anymore? Had you done something to annoy him? Did he not love you anymore? You didn't know what he had said a couple of days ago still worried you. Why he had made you promise him something so strange. Was everything alright? He was shaking. He had never felt such pain before. Nagito had just finished giving himself torture wounds. His legs were all torn up. It would be painful. It was painful, but it was all part of his plan. It had to be done. He took another deep breath. He then slammed his hand onto the propped-up knife he had placed. Saw pink liquid oozed out of his hand. He made sure that his left hand hadn't let go of the rope holding up the spear. Yet he had timed it right. He had to make sure he had to make sure to be alive at the very end of his plan. Despite the plan, he was happy. He knew that he was doing would, in the end, be worth it. He knew that he just hoped they would be able to keep your promise. What's that noise? He heard some sort of commotion outside. Slowly, he realized what it was. The others had arrived, which meant that his time was up. He took a few more deep breaths and looked back into his life. Even though some sad and unlucky times, his times with you seemed to outweigh any bad memories. You had given him so much happiness. He knew that you probably would be a bit upset with his plan, but it had to be done. Just banging out the door then, with one more loud bang, the door was open. His domino ring set in motion and set the curtains ablaze. He heard bottles breaking and his classmates threw anti-fire grenades. He felt even more aching pain with that. He knew that someone had thrown the rigged bottle. He let the poison seep into his airway. Now he just started to feel tired. And with that, he had to let go of the rope. Then the spear came flying down. You couldn't believe it. Nagito was dead. You could do nothing but just stare at his corpse. He looked as if he had been tortured. You knew his death would have not been easy. You fell to your knees, sobbing. Who could have done this? Your precious love was dead. How were you supposed to move from this? You weren't. You looked into his body. You looked at his body once more. You knew that no matter what you did, you would never be able to move on from this. How'd you make him came over to you? Hey, YN, come on. You probably shouldn't be here. Then you couldn't move. You felt completely numb. Hajime and a few others had to drag you away from the warehouse. What are you going to do now? Promise me, no matter what, you would continue to be happy. You couldn't keep that promise. Okay, that's it. As you could probably hear, I kinda started to tear up. Lucky me, I'm a Nagito Kenny and a simp, haha. Okay, so I would love to hear your suggestions for videos, your praise or whatever, and your criticism. Everything, just say down in the comments if you fucking hate my shit and you never want to see me or hear my voice ever again. Comment it. Yeah. Have a great day. You're a great person. Keep living life. Bye.